Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be giving my match predictions for week 23 Premier League fixtures. And if we get anything like we just saw in last week's fixtures, we are in for some amazing results. We saw upset happen, we saw upset occur with Liverpool getting destroyed 3-0 at Molineux by Wolves. We saw Spurs beat Manchester City like in usual fashion, where Manchester City still haven't scored at Spurs' new stadium so far. We also saw other amazing results like Sean Dyche in his first game as Everton manager beat Mikel Arteta's Arsenal side at Goodison Park. And like I just said, if we get anything like we just saw when it comes to these Premier League fixtures, we are in for some amazing goals and results to happen. We got the Merseyside Derby between Liverpool versus Everton. Can Everton win there for their first time since 1999 with fans? We also got Manchester United versus Leeds, not once but twice. We also got Arsenal versus Brentford, West Ham versus Chelsea, 2 London derbies in the same week. However, before I go on this video and give my match predictions, you know I'm going to say, make sure you guys like, comment and hit that big subscribe button right there, because only 10% of you guys are actually subscribed to my YouTube channel. And make sure you leave your predictions. What's going to be happening in week 23 Premier League fixtures? So the first game I'm going to be predicting is quite obvious. I'm wearing this shirt for a reason. It's the Merseyside Derby between Liverpool and Everton. And going into this game, both fans aren't going to be really in high hopes. Obviously, Everton much more compared to Liverpool, but their season has been in agony. The fans are feeling in despair because it hasn't gone according to plan how they felt like it would have in terms of their trajectory. And going into this game, I'm usually a confident Liverpool fan, but this season, Liverpool hasn't given me the hopes, the inspiration, the spirit to be in to actually have belief that we're going to win this game. And yes, I know Liverpool have an impeccable record against Everton, especially at home, only losing once to them in the last 20 years or so. However, going into this game, Everton surely must be feeling more confident, must be in a better mood. The spirit around the club must be much more joyous compared to Liverpool, where it just feels like we can't buy a win or a good performance. I feel like Everton got all the tools in the minerals to make it really tough for Liverpool at Anfield. I know Liverpool this season, despite our poor record, we still have only lost 1 game at Anfield. So potentially, we know in derbies, the fans play a massive role in terms of giving the energy to the players, and they play their hearts out. And if this game, the Liverpool players can't get up for it, I can't imagine any game that they'll be able to give their full best. Because come on, we know derbies, especially Merseyside derbies, they're intense. They're about physical battles, winning your individual duels. And if Liverpool can't do this, they're going to stand no chance against a Sean Dyche side where we know the players are buying into his system. And Liverpool are genuinely going to suffer against Everton, I feel like. I just feel like Everton have all the tools and the packages, like I said, to really challenge Liverpool. We saw against Arsenal, the set pieces, they really took advantage of Arsenal being an undersized team. And we know Liverpool don't really have that much height ever since we know Henderson hasn't really been playing, Van Dijk being injured. We are missing our big guns in the box to head and clear stuff out. So as a Liverpool fan, I'm going to be holding my breath for every single set piece Everton do take, because we know Tarkowski, Cody, Calvert-Lewin, they're going to be animals, they're going to be beasts, they're going to be launching themselves for every single header they will have a chance to get. And we know Liverpool, like we saw against Brentford, being challenged in that aspect, literally conceding goals. Also, we know Everton and Sean Dyche, they don't mind, they'll sit back, be carefree. They can play with 30% possession. They will let Liverpool have the ball, park of the ball. But on the counter-attack, we know Liverpool this season, like we saw in the last goal for Wolves at Molineux, they can easily get picked apart for fun. And we saw Everton do this against Arsenal at times with players like McNeil, Iwobi, Onana within the midfield. Those type of players are brave, they're courageous, they're not scared to dribble with the ball, really hurt Liverpool through the midfield, where we know this season it has really been non-existent. Also, their direct brand of football is going to be tough to deal with. Calvert-Lewin, we saw him occupy the whole of Arsenal's back four, and since Matip or Gomez aren't going to have Van Dijk to hold their hand throughout the 90 minutes, where it feels like they visibly need it because they've been defending like schoolboys, Calvert-Lewin's going to have an absolute field day, dominating, winning the aerial duels, holding the ball up, allowing other players to come around, pick up the ball and hurt Liverpool's back line. We have seen Liverpool going forward as well. In the new year, Liverpool's top goal scorer isn't even a Liverpool player. That just shows already Liverpool are low in confidence. They lack a threat going forward. Salah has been scuffing shots. Gakpo is not really filled with confidence and hasn't gelled himself in terms of the system. And Núñez, we know when it comes to him, he's quite wasteful in front of goal. So going into this game, it sounds like I'm saying Liverpool's going to lose. And I genuinely think so. I just feel like Everton are going to be up for the fight, the battle, and Klopp honestly, it's difficult for him to get these sort of players up for sort of scrap when we know some of them are going to be leaving at the end of the season, and it just feels like they have given up and they know they're not good enough. So going into this game, surprisingly, I rarely ever predict this, but I think Everton will be able to get a victory and win 1-0 away from home at Anfield against Liverpool. So the next game we're predicting is Arsenal versus Brentford, and both teams will be absolutely thrilled, absolutely pleased how their season is going, because they have far exceeded expectations. With Arsenal, we know, comfortably sitting on top of the Premier League table, whereas Brentford are sneakily thinking maybe we're going to be in a top 4 race, or at least finish in a Europa League spot, being 6th as we speak. And going into this game, we know Arsenal were not at the races at Everton. They underestimated them. They felt like it was going to be a walk in the park, and they thought they were going to be facing a Frank Lampard Everton side, but we know they're revitalised, rejuvenated. They had the energy, the intensity, the pressing, and Arsenal really couldn't cope. And this is going to be Arsenal's real first test, because we know this season, every single game it feels like they've actually played well or been the better side. This game against Everton is the first real time, or maybe the second time, it feels like Arsenal were second best. And we'll see if this adds a little bit of doubt, a little bit of hesitation when it comes to Arsenal's psyche, and maybe it might cost them when it comes to this game against Brentford. However, I don't feel like this is going to play a factor. We know Arsenal have been let off the hook when it comes to the Premier League race, especially since Man City losing to Tottenham Hotspur away from home, so they weren't able to gather ground from this. And also, we know Manchester City may face some punishment when it comes to the financial fair play, breaking the rules. So Arsenal will not be feeling the pressure. It won't be tense within the Emirates atmosphere, feeling like they're going to be choking a lead. They're still comfortable. As long as they stick to their game plan, it should be smooth sailing against a Brentford side. Or should it? Especially since we know Brentford have been playing very well this season, winning 4 out of their last 6 ever since the international break. Thomas Frank has become a master tactician against the top sides within the Premier League, adjusting from a 4 at the back to a 5 at the back, seeing what sort of weaknesses the opposition have and adapting to it, and he's been very good at it. We have seen this season, obviously, Brentford beating Manchester City, Liverpool, Manchester United, drawn to Tottenham and Chelsea. Thomas Frank knows how to get it done when it comes to the top sides within the Premier League. And although Arsenal did win early on this season, maybe Brentford is one of those sides you don't really want to face, especially after the defeat, because Brentford have the tag of being a smaller side, so potentially the Arsenal players may be underestimating Brentford, especially since they beat them early on in the season. And also, Brentford are a very good side, so if Arsenal walk into this game thinking it's going to be a walk in the park, it's going to be so easy, they will falter, because Brentford have beaten bigger sides in the past, like I've just stated. Also, Brentford do have the makeup of a side which can cause Arsenal problems, being physically tough, being able to win their individual duels, the second balls, make sure Arsenal can't keep the ball on the floor to ensure that they can establish a rhythm, a tone within the game, and make it really tough for Arsenal to do so they can obviously build this sort of momentum throughout the game. However, at the end of the day, I don't think Arsenal are going to lose that. Emirates, we know they have an amazing record there, winning all of their games apart from one, drawing to Newcastle. So it should surely be a walk in the park if they play at the high levels we know they should play at. I feel like if Manchester City won the game against Spurs, the Arsenal players would have felt pressure, but this would have alleviated off their shoulders, knowing they still got that comfortable gap, and they can just focus on setting a tone and play their style of football, which has given them so much success this season. We know Mikel Arteta demands perfection, and I can't just imagine him allowing his players being complacent when they step on the pitch. So I think Arsenal should be able to get a victory. Brentford will pose a little bit of a challenge, but I think Arsenal win. I'm going to go for a 2-1 home victory for Arsenal within this game. So the next game we'll be predicting is West Ham versus Chelsea, and this is one of the London derbies which are going to be highly anticipated on the weekend between these two sides. And going into this game, I feel like Graham Potter and even Chelsea fans know that this season is a write-off. They're not going to achieve Champions League football, maybe not even Europa League football, because the points gap is just too big. And we know Chelsea have made so many signings this season and even in January that it's going to take a long time to gel all these pieces of a jigsaw together to ensure that they can play fluid football. So going into this game, I feel like it's going to be another experiment for Chelsea to try get the best blend, the best mesh of these ingredients of the Chelsea players to see if they can start forming relationships, bonds, chemistry across the pitch to ensure that they can be a threat going forward. And we've already seen in the last 2 games that Chelsea have struggled to do this, so I wouldn't be surprised if this happens again against West Ham away from home. We saw against Fulham, we saw against Liverpool, drawing 0-0, weren't able to form this sort of chemistry to be able to be fluid in the attack, to create real chances. And at times, Chelsea felt quite flat, quite stale, especially in the game against Fulham, where they weren't really able to hurt their back line. There's a reason why 22 games have passed within the Premier League season, and Chelsea still have less goals than Erling Haaland, which just tells you how poor they have been going forward. We saw Mudryk get subbed off at half-time against Fulham. We saw Sterling come on. We saw their new signings come on, like Fofana as well. And it just felt like still going forward, they weren't really that scary. And I feel like these sort of problems will display itself in the game against West Ham away from home as well. So West Ham themselves may be thinking this is the perfect time to be facing Chelsea due to their disjointed attack going forward. We know West Ham obviously have been saying they want David Moyes sacked because of their poor performances this season and where they find themselves in the Premier League table. However, at the end of the day, in their last 3 games, they have been undefeated, winning 2 of them, getting an important draw against Newcastle, where we know teams have struggled in the past at St James's Park. Paqueta got a goal against Newcastle. Let's see if he can continue this run of form. We know Rice and again at the back against Newcastle were pivotal to ensure that they weren't able to concede more goals. So going into this game, I'm going to be predicting a ball draw. I feel like going forward, both teams still lack that killer will, that killer instinct to really hurt one another. I'm going to go for a consecutive 3 draws in a row for Chelsea, a 0-0 game between the 2 sides. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Manchester City versus Aston Villa. And going into this game, Manchester City not only have problems on the pitch, but off the pitch. By the time this video happens, or even by the time the game starts, Manchester City may find themselves 9th or 10th in the Premier League table if they get points deducted. So we don't know what's going to be happening. The club's in a mess at the moment. We know Pep Guardiola has been finding it tough and hard to change his tactics to get the best out of his players, dropping star names like Kevin De Bruyne and Gundogan in the game against Tottenham Hotspur, and they weren't able to win. So right now, it just doesn't feel right. The morale at the club is probably low due to the fact that there's so many changes have been happening, and the fact they have financial fair play looming over their heads. This may be a potential distraction for the players heading into this game against Aston Villa. However, let me stick to on the pitch. We saw Pep Guardiola try and embrace his genius tactics, his thinking, trying to change their style of play with playing a 3-4-2-1. It felt like at times with Lewis entering the midfield, and it didn't work against Tottenham Hotspur. We saw Tottenham Hotspur have so much joy on the counter-attack with players like Harry Kane, Son, Kulusevski being fearless, driving with the ball and really hurting Manchester City's backline. And potentially Aston Villa could do the same, because we know Watkins literally scored 1 goal and was one of the reasons why Leicester City conceded the 2nd goal. So he's in tip-top form, and potentially he'll fancy his chances against Akanji and Ake, who really did struggle against Manchester City. Manchester City, we know, haven't found their mojo or rhythm. It felt like they are ignoring Haaland when it comes to his signature runs in behind. Players like Grealish, Bernardo Silva, Mahrez, we know they like that intricate play outside the box, 1-2s, 1-touch, 2-touch play, and they're not really looking to find that signature run for Erling Haaland. And that's why I think Kevin De Bruyne must start in this game against Aston Villa, because we have seen they have such a wavelength, Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland, that Kevin De Bruyne has that long range of passing. He has that vision, that eagle eye, always seeing that run from him, and he's going to be able to provide that connection from the midfield to the attack. However, if Manchester City still opts not to start him, we know Aston Villa are going to be happy, because we know everything's going to be pretty much in front of them, which they're going to be able to defend in that low block, which Emery likes to do. However, we saw Aston Villa struggle against Leicester City, conceding 4 goals, which is very un-Unai Emery-like, where we know they're stubborn, disciplined when it comes to defensive football. And it felt like at times they were trying to play out from the back, thinking they were Barcelona of 2012, making mistakes, giving free chances and opportunities for Leicester City to score goals, which they did capitalise on. And if they do this against Manchester City, who we know are still one of the best pressing teams within the Premier League, they are going to struggle and will potentially concede 3 or 4 goals again. So Aston Villa must get this out of their way. They must be direct, look for those balls in behind to hurt Manchester City's high line. However, heading into this game, despite the distractions, despite the poor form on the pitch, and the fact they have not been able to have that sort of chemistry we have seen in the last few years or so, I think Manchester City will be able to pull off a win. So I'm going to be predicting a 2-0 victory for Manchester City at home within this fixture. So the last game I'm going to be predicting is Southampton versus Wolves. And we know this is an important 6-pointer between the two sides since they're going to be wanting to survive relegation this season. And heading into this game, I feel like Wolves are going to be the favourites. And I've been saying for the last few weeks or so, despite the results not showing it, I feel like Lopetegui has made a massive impact, a massive difference to the way Wolves have been playing. Going forward, it feels like they have an identity, they've been fluid, they've been really attacking teams and have really been showing how good they are individually, really taking the game to oppositions. We saw this against Liverpool 3 times, even in the last game at Molineux, winning 3-0 with players like Núñez, Neves, even Juan on the wing, all these players linking up, showing their individual brilliance, being able to be creative to create chances for the strikers and score goals. They're being fairly dominant and I think Wolves are going to be a scary team in the future for teams to face since they have found their mojo and rhythm. I feel like Southampton have taken a major setback. Despite winning 3 games in a row under Nathan Jones, it feels like they have slid back into the recent form that we have known them for, being a very poor side who can't really score goals with Che Adams, etc., missing chances they should be scoring. And going into this game, despite Southampton being at St Mary's, which is never an easy place to go to, I think Wolves have to be considered the favourites. They'll be on the front foot, they'll be looking to take the game to Southampton, and they have the quality and the personnel to really hurt them. I'm going to be predicting a 2-0 away victory for Wolves in this game.